Knife? It's not about street cred. It's about staying alive. Drop that knife. Save your life.
Drop that knife, save your life. That is a good campaign to have, and we will continue talking about this. But for now, I have with me a political commentator and journalist and social commentator extraordinary, Mr. JB Danquah. Good morning, JB.
Good morning.
One more time, thanks for making time out to join us on the show this morning. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been. It has been.
Right. So lots of news issues that have been coming up in the last few days, especially this week. Let's start from the world news. Now, it's from yesterday. There is the news that it's suspected that there's a former Russian spy was almost assassinated through poisoning. I think the investigations are ongoing and it's not being fully ascertained yet. But the interesting thing is that the Foreign Secretary, Mr. Boris Johnson, spoke yesterday in the House of Commons, and he said if it's likely the officials going for the World Cup should boycott it. It looks like that wasn't received in good faith. And there's been a whole uproar about that particular statement. Did you think that warrants the UK officials or the UK the England football team or boycotting the World Cup in Russia?
You see, somebody like Boris Johnson needs to assess. It's so surprising for a man who went to an Ivy League school to speak like somebody who's not had. You have to look at what this the society wants. This is a society which thrives on football,
right?
Do you know anytime there is England unable to qualify for any major tournament, there is a loss in revenue economically, because you're talking about people traveling to the centers, people booking flights, and even the memorabilia and all that sort of thing, the advertisements and the TV rights and all that. It's a big thing. And for the foreign minister who wants to become prime minister, which I hope he doesn't, I'd rather stick with Theresa May. If he becomes prime minister, we don't know. God help us all, because you can't come and say, "Oh, our participation will be in doubt." He's having a laugh, and you can see the reaction from many football pundits and journalists that the man, people were even using F words on him. Sorry to use that, because basically people were very angry. I think it was a very irresponsible, very infantile, and very ill-informed statement to make. Because mind you, we are only 4 months away from the World, 3 months away from
3 months
away from the World Cup. This thing comes here every 4 years. It's an event which unites the whole world. And mind you, it is wrong to mix sports with politics, because sports is recreational.
Absolutely.
It is not political. So please, Mr. Boris Johnson,
leave our football for us,
and then you do what you want to do.
Deal with the things politically as it should be dealt with, and leave our football for us. But
on a serious note, leaving out Boris Johnson on a serious note, the problem we have here is that the modus operandi of Boris Putin, Vladimir Putin, is very worrying. And I'm saying if, because it's not been substantiated that this is actually being carried out by the Russian KGB or Russian Secret Service, is that this is what happened to Mr. Litvinenko some time back. I think 10 years back, Mr. Litvinenko was poisoned with polonium-210. Now we are hoping that it's not so, but if it is, it's very worrying, because we have a very large community of Russians in England. And if many of them don't feel safe here, it could put a very serious strain on relations. Mr. Sergei Skilpa and his daughter Yelia, he's 66 and his daughter 33, has spent the third night in a critical condition hospital after being found unconscious in Salisbury. The substance is unknown, and to the extent that areas have been cordoned off. Now, it reminds me of something which happened in 1940, when there was a president of the old Soviet Union called Joseph Stalin, who operated in such a way. What he did was that anybody he found to be an opponent, he went abroad and made that person sure that person was executed. If we do remember, in 1940, there was a man who was struggling to get to the seat of the general secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, called Trotsky, Leonid Trotsky.
Okay.
And what happened was that in 1940, you had Stalin sending people all the way to Mexico City, and they stabbed Trotsky with an ice pick. Now, if opponents of the government who are outside the country are not safe, it's a very, very serious thing, and it's a very dangerous thing, because you see, an alternative voice is always needed in a society, and when an alternative voice is stumbled upon, there's a lack of truth towards power. Once power is not told truth is not told to power, the government in power becomes complacent and becomes authoritarian. Vladimir Putin has been in power since 1999, 31st December 1999. He's been president since then. Missed out 4 years with prime minister, but still he was effectively the leader, if you do remember.
Yeah.
Where he picked his own friend
to
become president, and he was still effectively the leader. And if you look at the way things are moving on, is he going to become like what's happening in China, where you had Xi Jinping saying now there's no term towards his presidency? You see, and you look at these things, you suppress people outside your country, those within. Look at how many political assassinations have happened.
Yeah.
Loads of them. Uncountable. Now, those outside are also unsafe. Therefore, in actual fact, there's no need even for an election. There's no need for democratic parties to stand against Putin, because if everybody who stands against him or speaks against him or even goes against the system is not safe, therefore their whole system is sham, and it's a more or less like a gangster-oriented political system.
Now, with this particular news and the way that UK is sort of seeking to respond, if it is substantiated that it's an actual assassination spearheaded by Putin's administration, do you think we are going to see that sharp fallout between UK-Russian relations?
The thing is that if there's a sharp fallout, who are the losers? You were talking about a sharp fallout, yes, but then who will be the losers? Mind you, the oligarchs bring money to Britain. There's been a lot of Russian investment within Britain, known and unknown. And who are going to be the losers? Mind you, we also got Brexit coming on the horizon. Who will become our new friends internationally?
So we need that international partnership.
You need some sort of level. You see, in as much as you are talking about an authoritarian and a very dangerous leadership in Vladimir Putin, you also have to think about the other sides, about the economic problems and the economic advantages and disadvantages involved. Because mind you, Russia is a very big country, wealthy in terms of natural resources, and we need their oil and their gas. Are you then going to fall out with them and then find alternative means? Which will be very difficult, because you have long-standing agreements with the Russians. And also you got the oligarchs who have invested heavily within Britain, even buying football teams.
Right.
And even living in, and buying most of our real estate here. So where do we stand if they were to take their money elsewhere within the world or within the continent? So we have to look at that. Yes, politics as usual, but then we always have to think about the repercussions of falling out with the Russians. And I think that both sides should also refrain from irresponsible, statements. I'll read something out to you. Right. Yvette Cooper, who is the Labour's spokesperson for Home Affairs. She said, former spokesperson for Home Affairs, who is now on the backbenches of the Labour Party. She said something that the report from BuzzFeed, which is a news outlet, it says that 14 deaths in the UK have been linked to Russia by US spy agencies. That is serious. You see, she's the chairwoman of the Home Affairs Select Committee, but she was a former spokesperson for Home Affairs for the Labour Party. She said she asked Mr. Johnson, the Home Secretary, to order the National Crime Agency to urgently review the cases. So there have been other cases which me and you have not heard about, or not heard about, which have happened quietly, but all have been linked to Russian involvement. So the problem is bigger than
bigger than what
me and you know about
being exposed to in the media.
And you remember do you remember about also the problem with the what do you call it, with the so-called army of cyber warriors attacking the cyber systems of Britain and other countries. Yes, which were said to be Russian.
And it's a similar thing as well was said about the US.
Yes, Russia. Yes, involved in a cyber attack. Even in the elections, and even they were saying that even they were trying to get involved. Even apparently there were rumors, allegations that they even got involved in what do you call it, in the Brexit votes. You see, so
right.
I mean,
let's quickly, before we come to the substantial discussions on Ghana's independence and the independence celebrations in general across Africa, let's quickly look at Mr. Trump's administration and the resignations that are going. I know you are not a Trump fan at all.
I've never been from day one. If you do remember when the election happened, and we were here, I was here in the studios, and you remember that almost 1.5. Almost 1.5 years ago, and I was sitting here. And I was here, and I told people that, look, I mean, this man is heading towards a political abyss. Many agreed, but some didn't. And I think those who didn't agree with me must be coming over here to give me a handshake.
But let's is the exit of some of his trusted executives, lieutenant, is that exit? What do you call it? A signature to what you're saying, that this guy is heading towards.
No, you see, what's happening is that he has political, legal, and social problems as a president. Political in the sense that in November, which is approximately maybe 8 months away, there's going to be a midterm election. And his opinion poll ratings are less than 40%. If you are hovering around 35 to 40%, it's most likely that there will be a big wipeout in the next election, right? Secondly, legally, the problem with this Russian so-called interference is becoming tighter. If you look at Mr. Mueller,
right,
he's actually getting many of his, 2 or 3 of Donald Trump's former lieutenants. He's got them to basically plead guilty, and apart from that, they might even turn against him and become prosecution witnesses.
Right.
Socially, he's been a failure as a president.
But do you think the American people see it that way?
You see, the problem is that if they don't see it, they are heading for problems. Because, he's always saying things to pander to the base. Look what he's talking about, putting tariffs on iron ore and other products.
That is what has prompted the resignation.
Yes, because this man is a top economic advisor called Gary Cohen. He resigned yesterday, and he was said to be his reasons weren't specific, but the statement had it that it was an honor to serve my country. A quote, and to enact pro-growth economic policies to benefit the American people, in particular the passage of a historic tax reform, unquote. Once that mission had been achieved, there were a number of differences which prompted his departure, including the possible looming tariff war and his differences on the issue with the trade advisor Peter Navarro and Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross. Those people, Peter Navarro and Wilbur Ross, are protectionists.
Okay.
And when you have those protectionists in office or in power, it's very, very dangerous. Protection in the sense that they always pander to the base. Oh, it's because of allowing of imports from other countries. That's why our jobs are being taken away. Forgetting that we are in a world of globalization. Aren't they the proponents of globalization?
They are, of course.
Aren't they the signatures to laissez-faire policies? So why are they doing this? It shows that how out of touch the president is.
Now, let's Reuters have put together a number of officials that who have either resigned or have been fired from Trump's administration since he took office, and they have Tom Hicks, the White House communications director, who was one of Trump's longest serving and most trusted aides, resigned on February 28th. She was the fourth person to hold the post since Trump became president. There's Rob Porter, the White House staff secretary, a senior advisor in charge of much of the documentation that went to Trump for his signature, who also resigned early in February following accusations of domestic abuse from two former wives. That's interesting. So there is Richard Cordray, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's first director, resigned in November. Trump designated White House Budget Director Mick Mulvaney as acting director, but Cordray named the deputy director as his replacement, triggering a political and legal battle. 4 days later, a federal court ruled in Trump's favor. Now, the Health and Services Secretary Tom Price also resigned under pressure from Trump in September. On the 29th of September, in an uproar over Price's use of costly private charter planes for government. And there is, there is also Stephen Bannon.
Yes, Stephen Bannon.
Stephen Bannon, a lot of them now. So Stephen Bannon, Trump's chief strategist. Let me read. The next one is Ryan Priebus. The former chairman of the Republican National Committee was replaced by John Kelly as Trump's chief of staff in July. There is Anthony Scaramucci, who is the White House communications director, who was fired by Trump in July after just 10 days on the job. And there is also Walter Schoep, the head of the U.S. Office of Government Ethics, who clashed with Trump and his administration, stepped down in July before his 5-year term came to end. There is Michael Schwartz, senior White House assistant press secretary, resigned in July. There's Sean Spicer. There is James Comey. There is James Donovan. There is Michael Dupe. There is Mark Green. There is Todd Rickett. There is Katie Walsh. There's Philip Bilden. Michael Flynn. That looks like a mass exo. There is Garrett Lansing, Robin Townley, Vincent Viola. There is Caroline Wiles, Sally Yates. That looks like a mass exodus of people. And from what I'm reading, looks like they either don't agree with some policies that he is putting forth, or he feels that they are opposing something he wants them to do, so they are fired.
You see, he's running the presidency as if he's running a business. You see, and the problem he has is that he's never held political office before. He's never had a political position before, so he needs advisors. But as we come to the point, does he even listen to his advisors? Clash.
That's the thing, because
he need advisors.
He looks like,
and he doesn't understand that. You see, once you get people, if you keep on having a revolving door, such positions become poison challenges, and become poisoned pots, and people don't want to touch a poisoned pot. Once you keep on sacking people, and you don't have confidence in people you appoint, it even speaks about you as the president, because you have been made wrong decisions. If you make the right decision, you know there'll be no need for you to sack people. Once you choose the right person, you keep that person over a length of time. Once you keep on sacking people, it's even about you. It's question marks about you, the appointer.
Absolutely. I mean, like you're saying.
You see that's how I'm coming from, because it's an indictment on you as an individual, saying that you are incapable of choosing the right
people to manage the affairs around you. And the
dangers is that once your company becomes a revolving door, you are taken as more or less, people don't take you seriously. And governance is about being serious. and it's about perception. Mind you, Danny, if people look at a president who is not serious, it reflects on the societal norms and practices. For instance, when Obama was in power, the immediate President Obama, you can see that the Americans had a sense of pride and nationalism.
That's true.
Because he had a president who was serious. And even he had a demean, he made the office of the presidency look very powerful and important.
And very attractive.
Attractive. Well. You see, there's a saying which says that an individual gets into power, but it's a personality which makes the office magnified or shrink.
Yeah, that's true.
You see, it's you as an individual who make it magnified or to make it shrink. So if, looking at President Donald Trump now, he looks at an individual who has brought a lot of, he's belittled the office of the presidency. A man who gets up and tweets at 3 a.m. in the morning.
What happened to people around him making sure that his Twitter handle is controlled by a communications team?
Hasn't he sacked half of his communications team? Does he listen to
Looks
them?
like he has a problem in that area, isn't it? That he wants to say what he wants to say.
But you see, the man, political psychologists will say he's a man who has a very paternalistic approach towards leadership.
Right.
And he's also got the bully mentality. My perspective is that he doesn't listen to anybody apart from he himself. And it's very dangerous to be such when you're in power, because what happens is that in a democratic system like in America, where the three arms of government work together, you thinking that as an executive you have ultimate power is very dangerous, because you have the legislature and you have the judiciary. And once these arms of government come into tandem, you as executive president should be very careful that you do not fall outside upon their toes. That's why now he's going to have legal problems, because this Russian investigation, whereby he wants to make sure that he called the director of the FBI.
Right.
He's tried so many times to make sure that this thing becomes a non-starter. But once you are executive president, mean that you are above the judiciary and you are above the legislature. So he should, look at that, say to himself that I think he's on the wrong side of history, and he's on the wrong side of the political discourse. Because mind you, whether you like it or not, November 7th, November 6th. November 7th, November 6th of this year, there's going to be a midterm election. And when those elections come about, and the Democrats are able to get a majority in the House and the Senate, the next thing is that he could be impeached, because many of the things he has done are impeachable. For instance, trying to tell the FBI director that he should try and drop the case against him on the Russian issue, trying to tell the FBI director that he wants loyalty. It's like he's moving on like an old-fashioned dictator.
Not in the 21st century,
yes.
2018. Yeah. It's still the Discourse here on ABN Radio. My guest in the studio, we're having political discourse this morning. We will get into a social one very soon, and it concerns Independence Day celebrations in Africa, with Ghana as a case study. Now, yesterday, we carried live the presidential parade and the speech of the president of Ghana that was delivered on the Independence Day. Now, there have been highlights which I've read initially to you, some of the things that the president highlighted in his speech. But the question that I'm asking this morning is that, can the resources committed to celebrating the day, putting together the event, the pomp and pageantry, can that resource be channeled somewhere? Can there be something different done to commemorate Independence Days in Africa, rather than spending it lavishly on a parade on the day and the whole of the country taking a holiday? We'll be right back. Your weekday morning just got exciting. Tune into the new London City Show and get your day started on a happy note.
Happy mornings with Nayoka on the London
City Show.
Wake up to a happy and exciting morning with me, Naoko Wari, on the London City Show, 7 to 10 a.m. on ABN Radio.
Happy mornings with Nayoka on the London City Show.
The London City Show is brought to you by ABN TV, Sky Channel 235, UK's favorite black broadcaster, trailing exciting, compelling and informative programs. Visit abntv.co.uk to catch up with all of your favorite telenovelas. Mixpiration with Bright every Sunday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. is just fun. It's exciting. It's a mix of contemporary R&B and pop gospel music right here on ABN Radio. Enjoy great tunes every Sunday evening with Bright on Mixpiration, a blend of great inspiring songs just for your Sunday evening relaxation. Tune in from 6 to 8 p.m. this and every Sunday. They're on ABN Radio, London's Afropolitan radio station.
Consider that life wasted. Consider the heart ripped out of a family. Consider the potential never realized. Are these the things you consider when you carry a knife? It's not about street cred. It's about staying alive. Drop that knife. Save your life.
Drop That Knife, Save Your Life is a campaign that is ongoing here on ABN Radio and ABN Media brand, making sure that our communities are safer from knife and gun crime. My guest in the studio this morning, Mr. JB Danquah. You can join us in the discussion. The phone line is activated 0208 670 7300, or the text line, WhatsApp line, which you can also give us a call on if you're calling via mobile, 0788 7475 940. Now, JB,
Yeah.
just before we went for the short break, I was asking the question if it's important for us to commit so much resources as African countries to celebrate Independence Days. What are your thoughts on this?
You see, the independence of African countries is basically, we have to look at ourselves and say, that, so what have we done since we've been given independence? Or we attained independence, or we fought for independence, or we struggled to attain independence? Are we still dependent on those who left us 50, 60 years ago? Are we still subservient to the former colonial masters who basically came to steal from the continent? Are we still running to those who stole from us and built their societies upon stolen wealth after so many years of living in countries they are suppressed? For instance, in Ghana, which was got its independence in 100, got independence in 1957, the British were there for 113 years. Officially, they were there before, but officially from 1844, when the Bond of 1844 was signed, that they were going to be, they're going to protect the Gold Coast for 100 years, and after that, they would then give it back to the locals. So they were on a so-called mission of, the so-called burden, or to modernize or to bring civilization, which for me is another question mark altogether. We then, after 113 years of British rule, we were then given independence. After that, what has the continent done for itself? You see, and these are things we have to look out. The celebrations are a big question mark. But then, what have we done with what was given to us? I mean, look at the countries in Africa. Basically, it's a sad case.
It is. I mean, there is more sad news to worry about than the happy ones.
And the thing is that, are we willing? You see, and that's why the president of Ghana, President Nana Akufo-Addo, is telling us that we have to look at ourselves and build from within. Because let me tell you something. There's something called donor fatigue. Are we still going to be at the mercy of the West, continually receiving aid?
But the West do get something, albeit latent. It's not manifest, but the West do get something with all these aids that they flood to Africa.
But then, do we still need to get something from the West every time? Do we always have to run to the West for money?
That one, it shouldn't be the case.
Look at what happened in in Ghana when the auditor's report came out. If you read about the Auditor General's report, look at the amount of money which was going to be overpaid. This is what basically like maybe almost like $1.5 billion equivalent. Over £1 billion.
Right.
Was going to be paid to individuals who hadn't done the work, or even had done the work, but were going for a second dosage of the the paycheck, which was found out by the Auditor General. And what the president says that if this money had been paid out, that money could have been used to finance education for 5 years. And these are some of the things we have to look at. Independence, yes, but what have we gained from it? Are we celebrating 50 or 60 years of mediocrity or kleptocracy? 50 years of not building upon the gains of what was left us by the colonial masters. Look, for instance, Ghana was left with the British left us with 500 million. 500 million was what the British left us in 1957. Do you know that when Nkrumah was overthrown in 1966, we were indebted to the same tune?
So it's been an age-long problem.
Yes.
But we have a new generation. We've come to meet this problem.
Yes.
So the question is, what should we be doing differently?
That is why we have our problem in Africa, in the Caribbean. The problem we have in those parts of the world. It's not that we don't have the resources, but it's corruption.
Right.
You cannot tell me that countries like Ghana, Nigeria would come to the West for loans if they don't have corrupt societies or corrupt governments. Look at the wealth lying within countries like Ghana and Nigeria. Especially a country like Nigeria, which has so much oil, but still goes for IMF and World Bank conditionality loans. How do you explain that to me? How do you explain that to me? Does it make any sense? It shows that we have to fight corruption. And if this special prosecutor office, which the president of Ghana has instituted, if it's made to work, it should be a role model for other African countries to follow.
But it doesn't look like African countries are going to win the war on corruption anytime soon.
Because they don't want to. It's not because they don't have the tools to. They don't want to. Why they don't want to? Because many of the leaders in Africa would always one, is about patronage. Right. Two, it's about the weak institutions have also made corruption come about. You know why? For instance, when a president retires or a minister retires, is there any comfortable pensions in place for the citizenry?
So when the person is in office, the person has to make sure that you secure your future.
Yes. Secondly, we also have societal problems. Many people who are in political office, the extended family always want them to perform some sort of miracle. And you know what I'm talking about.
That's interesting.
That is also a problem. That's why people are corrupt, because in our societies, once a man gets the power, he does not do some certain things for his extended family, he becomes an outcast when he's not in power anymore. And we have a wide extended family, and therefore people in power will always want to be seen to be helping the extended family or even the villagers at large. And those are big problems we have in Africa. So this fight against corruption is big, and that's why I'm saying that 50 years or 60 years of 61 years of independence, what are we celebrating? Are we celebrating or ushering ourselves into a new dawn, which this president wants to? Because you see, let me tell you something. The problem with Africa is not about the resources, about bad leadership. Let me tell you something. If you heard what happened about the prosecution of two individuals in Ghana who were said to have embezzled some amount of money, running into millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
When the party in which they belong to, some of the members have made statements that, when they come into power, hopefully, which I hope they do not come into, in 2020, they are going to release those individuals. Meanwhile, these people are guilty. They've been found guilty through the system.
That's a mark of a corrupt stock.
Yes, and that is a mark of a society which is not serious about fighting corruption. You see, and I believe that this government should be able to, even if they do not do anything, should be able to win the war on corruption, which is very important.
But currently, they only have how many more years to go? Just about 2 more years.
2.5 years. 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah.
More years to go. Is it something? I've read highlights of the president's speech, and most portions of the speech seem to be quite vague. In that it's not mentioning like specifics, empirically what has been done, what is being done, the actual structures that are in place. It's those political talks that we've been hearing over and over and over again.
See, for instance, look, let me tell you something. The government was saddled. I'm not here to protect government policy, but what I'm telling you is that from what I've received is that they were left with a lot of debt. Now they're clearing most of the debt.
Almost all the new governments in Africa say that, isn't it? We are saying that recently.
As I'm saying that, most of our problems have been bad management and bad leadership.
Okay.
The problem with Ghana and even places like Liberia is that if you have a fiscally irresponsible government, you are then left with nothing when you come into power.
But JB, then these politicians shouldn't be making the promises when they are on their campaign trail.
Yeah, you see, the promises have been made, and I think this government in Ghana have, to some extent, fulfilled most of their promises. For instance, they talk about institution of the Special Prosecutors Bill and the Special Prosecutor. Yes, they talk about the Right to Information Bill is going to be passed.
Right.
The free education
has been implemented.
They're going to do the ID cards by the end of the year.
I think the big one that people are looking forward to is the one district, one factory.
Yes, yeah. But last Saturday I was somewhere and I met some individuals and people have started. What they wanted to do, the whole idea about the one district, one factory was that you have to have the resource base before the factory is built.
Absolutely.
So many of the what is being done is that by the middle of this year, many of the farms and the raw materials which are going to be used for the factory are being put in place. So when it takes off officially, there'll be no excuses, which I believe strongly is being done, because people are. I mean, for instance, a place like in Belgrade in the eastern region, they are growing a lot of cassava to make cassava farms.
But there has been some rumors that on the back of this one district, one factory is a huge Chinese influence, and there's the fear that by the time the policy is implemented, the whole industrial sector is being taken over by the Chinese.
Well, what I think this government should do is that if there's even going to be the Chinese are going to come in, they should have a partnership with the locals. But if somebody's going to have a factory in an area, he should make sure that even if he's coming in with his money, but then he has to have a labor force.
But aren't there Ghanaians in Ghana, in the diaspora, who have the wherewithal to be able to partner with the government to get this done without any foreign influence?
Yes, but yes. Well, I do agree with you, yes, that there are people outside of the country who can do it. And I think this government has given a chance to everybody to bring across what they want or what they can do. It's not basically Chinese. Yes, the Chinese might come in, which I know I've heard one or two stories which they have been able to get contracts here and there. But the thing is that we also have to give heed to the calls for an indigenization of business.
Which is very important.
Yes, because indigenization of business makes sure that you empower individuals within your country. And once you empower the individuals within your country, it creates employment. For instance, if I have a factory in Ghana, or you have a factory in Ghana, or somebody has a factory in Nigeria, he will employ his own people and he will not transfer his profits outside. But the problem is that once you have foreigners invested within your country, they'll plow back the profits within to the original homeland.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem we would face. So I think that there should be some sort of laws which would even put a cap on how much money you can send outside. But there should be a policy of plowing back the profits within the society to make sure that society gains from the factories.
Now, JB, let me ask this question again. So we've kind of gone on to talk about a lot of other things, but let me come back to it again. Is it necessary for the resources that are committed to celebrating the Independence Day? Is it necessary? Can something else be done differently by African countries? Do you think?
You see, somebody said something. He says that a man would always remember the day he or she, a man or woman would always remember the day he or she is born, regardless of whether you have the money or not. That's a fair statement.
The remembrance is key. But then the resources committed to celebrating the day, the holiday, the loss, the economic loss to the state, if I can say that.
But don't you think that also when you have these celebrations, it also opens up the country more to people wanting to know more about the country?
Of course, because for instance, can't we do that without spending hugely on a particular day and having that the time where everybody just sort of goes to sleep?
Yeah, but you see, we've got a local saying which says, "A debtor should always eat." Your debtor should always eat, even though no matter how much you owe within yourself, or how much money you owe to people, or how much you are struggling, you should still eat. Shouldn't we still celebrate the day we were recognized as the nation of Ghana? Or we should still remember it. Yes, there's other ways of doing it, but
that's what I'm saying. So what about celebrating that day? We say that, okay, for instance, originally or in the years past, however much money is used to put together this parade that the president is paid, but today maybe as per the problems that are bedeviling a particular district, they have water crisis, water situation. So on Independence Day, what we want to do is to devote that money and then build something for the community, commission it, and get the community in that area something that they can hold on to. That on Ghana's Independence Day celebration 2019, we got this water facility or we got this education facility. Can't something like that happen?
I agree with you. That is a very plausible idea, and I think the government should look at that too. But my thoughts also come to the point whereby, you see, on that day of independence, or like the 6th March, for instance, it's a sense. It's a day where you have a sense of patriotism, or sense of nationalism, a sense whereby a day where you believe that we're one nation, one people, one destiny. For instance, if you're going to look at a project you're going to have, let's suppose it may be a country where you have so many ethnic groupings. On the day that you choose maybe to do it in one region, what would another region say about what you've done for them? You see, you also think about how people view in Africa, the way people think that, oh, you're favoring one people over the other. So I think that to meet in the capital to have a celebration, yes, it's good enough, because mind you, many of those days, they bring back memories, and it's a sense of national pride and importance. And I believe that governments always take pride, or nationals always take pride on a day of independence, on a day of national. America, don't you have 4th of July? In what do you call it?
You see that's the thing.
In France, we have.
But JB, the issues and the problems that countries like America, France, UK, the advanced countries, Germany, and all these states, the issues that they grapple with, it's totally different from what Africa grapples with.
I know that.
You understand?
Africa has its problems.
So there are misplaced priorities sometimes when resources are going to other areas.
Let's look on the brighter side of it, that you see, there's always a need for a rallying cry.
Okay.
And when you have days like this, and a president or a leader has a rallying cry from nation, you have another 364 days to think upon Ghana beyond aid. Think upon Ghana beyond, foreign assistance. Think about a self-sufficient society. Think about a Ghana whereby Ghana beyond corruption. Ghana beyond, you know, and what do you call it? Inward looking, you know, parochial interest. You know, you have to look at
Ghana beyond internal security threats. JB,
Yes,
we will be right back, and then we'll try and look at some highlights from the president's speech before we conclude today's discussion. You can call us 0208 670 7300 live here on ABN Radio. It's also streaming live on YouTube, also online, abnradiouk.com, and on mobile via the ABN Radio app and the TuneIn mobile app. Just search for ABN Radio. This is the Discourse.
I got caught in an addiction and I couldn't find my way out of that cardboard box.
It kept grasping onto me. Before I realized it, I couldn't stop using it.
Comes like a primal instinct. It's god awful.
I needed a program that would save my life, and I found Narcanon.
Narcanon gave me my life back, 100%.
Call Narcanon today at 01435 512 460. 01435 512 460.
Consider that life wasted. Consider the heart of the family ripped apart. Consider the potential never realized. Are these the things you consider when you carry a knife? It's not about street cred or respect. It's about staying alive. Drop that knife and save a life. Quentin Slowly, supporting all family and young people.
Freedom, 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 freedom. Shatta, 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 shatta. Freedom, 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 freedom. Shatta, 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 shatta. Freedom. 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 Shatta, 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 shatta. My name is Shatta Wale. Freedom. 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 Shatta, 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 shatta.
That is Shatta Wale with Freedom. Well, in the recent days, he has been in the news as having this altercation with a police officer and rudely speeding up. Well, part of the story that got me a bit upset is the fact that a person who videoed the whole incident for us to have empirical evidence of what happened is rather being charged, and I'm wondering what is happening here.
You know, you see, it shows how I don't explain it. It's very irresponsible of the police to do that. I hope the charge against the ladies dropped, because there is no law in the land.
The person who should be charged is Shatta Wale.
And even so, that if she's videotaped the incident, what law has she broken? There's no law against people taking video. No. Yes, and even itself, you know, these days of citizens journalism.
Absolutely.
Which has now become part of the mainstream.
It has
become part of the mainstream.
It has become part of the mainstream.
It's now part of the mainstream, and it's part of journalism.
Yeah.
I mean, the print. Even now, if you look at it now, citizen journalism is now overtaking print journalism. If you do know that.
Yes.
Now, social media is now a main source of journalism as compared to the print journalism now.
Absolutely. So I don't know, but it's
very irresponsible.
It goes to tell the sort of institutions we are, and it's part of the corruption that we are talking about.
Yes.
You know, it's part of the corruption that we are talking about.
Yeah. The corruption. You see, but the corruption, as you look at it, it's not just about somebody pilfering from or stealing from the national coffers of national bank. It's about people not doing the right thing and trying to use their position to get away for doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. Let's quickly let me pick some quick comments from you on the highlights of the president's speech. And whilst we are on this, let me just read out what he said about policing in Ghana. He said the government is doing and will do whatever it takes to enable the police discharge their duties effectively. We are providing the means for them to So we are providing the means for them to modernize their equipment and learn modern methods of policing, and their numbers will be rapidly increased to match our growing population and the sophistication and audacity of the criminals. JB, I thought it was serious. This is seriously late news. I thought it was seriously late news.
No. You know, let me tell you something. We have moving. The police or the government is now moving from an era of reactive policing to proactive. Okay?
Shouldn't that be the case all along?
Now, I think they've got to head whereby they have to use the means necessary within the democratic space. Okay, for instance, this thing about when police get you and there's an altercation, the police will have to defend themselves. There's not about I am going within a matter of, yes, there's a need to respect human rights, but when it comes to the point whereby the police are coming to arrest the suspects and they're shot at, the police have to shoot back.
The police life is on.
Yes.
There's been some incident lately where there was a breaking into a jail to free a prisoner and then killing the policeman.
Yeah, but then 2 of those people who did that were killed last week. If you remember that there were 2 of the robbers who were said to have been part of that gang were shot. When the police tried to arrest them, they shot at the police, and the police shot them back. And these are some of the things we have to look at, that the police have to move from and the government too will have to make sure the police are equipped to move from reactive to proactive. Proactive in the sense that you have to anticipate any danger, and more or less like there's a need for a new sense of training.
It looks like there's a sense of fear now, especially people who live in certain parts of the capital city. I was watching a report by Joy News, and the gentleman who was just standing by the side, who had been there to witness the shooting of the agro, what was the name? The man who was shot.
Oh yeah, the Lebanese man.
The Lebanese man. Yeah. This guy was saying that, are you guys now coming to cover this? This is a daily occurrence here, and right there and then he had chronicled about 4 or 5 incidents that didn't make the national news headline.
Yes, and I'm saying to myself that the police also are to blame. Why? Because many a times people have called the police, and all the police say that, we can't come because we don't have a car.
Can you buy fuel for us before we call? Goodness me. Anyway,
you see, it's so pathetic.
Right. We just running out of time. We just have about 3 minutes. So let me pick another comment from the president, and with this one, which I thought was a very positive one. It says the national identification and address system, the driver's license, vehicle registration, the paperless operation at the ports, interoperability of the payment system in the financial sector are all geared towards modernizing our economy, and we should begin to feel the difference when all these measures become operational this year. And the part that I like is that he put a time lap to it.
And these are the things which will help fight corruption. The paperless. Look, why are you telling me that, Danny, when the president wanted to bring the paperless system to the ports and the harbors, what was the middlemen or the so-called handlers were saying, we don't want it. Why? Because they'll not be able to steal anymore.
Absolutely.
We just shows that this president is serious about the fight against corruption, and I give him thumbs up.
Right. With the thumbs up, I would like to say a very big thank you to my guest in the studio, Mr. JB Danquah. We'll be hoping to be having him more here in the studio. It's been the Discourse with me, DanielDadson, from 7 o'clock to now. Thanks very much for joining us. More details on news on our website, abnradiouk.com. Efwa Adam is up next with the Metropolitan Mix, and later in the day, Sharon Rose is back here with the Drive Time Show. And watch out for our new ABN Radio Breakfast Show. We'll be bringing you details later on, so keep an eye on our social portals across all social media platforms. That's Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat. Wherever you find a social media portal, look out for ABN Radio UK. My name is DanielDadson, and I will be back on Saturday with my colleague and co-presenter Akosia Jumofoku on Gospel Connect, bringing to you all the very latest contemporary gospel hits, as well as some amazingly exciting interviews with some of UK's top upcoming artists. This is ABN Radio. Have a lovely day.
ABN Radio, London's Afropolitan radio station. More news, more information. This is ABN News on the Hour.
From the Sky